What's up everyone, Vu of Envu Films, and I am currently out at Sony Camera Camp with all of my tube doucher buddies. I'm just kidding. Clearly I am not at Sony Camera Camp because apparently Sony is very strict with their rules and regulations on who they're going to invite to their events. Of course, you need to have at least 50,000 subscribers. I do not. You have to sell a bunch of LUTs and t-shirts. I don't do that. And according to the reps, owning a nail salon with after hours happy ending massages for only $29.99 is not a good look for public relations, so I don't get invited to that kind of stuff. With that said, I am currently at NAB, aka my nice and airy backyard, because I don't get invited to that either. Obviously because my YouTube channel is absolute trash. But today I'm going to talk about what lens you should get for your new Sony ZV-E1. Unless you're me, who is straight a baller who owns a nail salon with after hours happy-ending massages for $29.99, you're not gonna be able to afford a bunch of expensive lenses after buying a $2,000 plus camera for your vlogging needs. And I'm gonna tell you straight up, the lens I recommend you get, because obviously the Sony ZV-E1 is a small camera, and two, it is for run and gun vlogging. I'm going to just get straight to the point, and I recommend the Tamron 20-40 f2.8 zoom lens for your needs. So I'm actually filming on the Tamron 20-40 right now on my Sony FX3 because again, I never got a ZV-E1 for early review, and it is on pre-order, so I don't actually have mine yet. I did buy one. This is actually being filmed on my Sony FX3, which obviously has the same sensor, so it'll probably have the same look. The only difference would be my hands will be probably on fire right now because the Sony ZV-E1 overheats here and there depending on the situation. This is the Tamron 20-40 at 20 millimeters, f2.8 with active stave on. So that's like, I don't know, 22 millimeters or something because of the 1.1 crop with active stave. And of course it could go all the way to 40, and hopefully I don't have nose hairs and shit. But let's just back out so we don't completely destroy your vision. But yeah, this is how the 20-40 Tamron looks like at 20 mil. And this is a lens I recommend you buy if you just needed something to do everything. Yes, it doesn't have zoom range and all that stuff, but if you're vlogging, if you're running and gunning, filming different details on your travels, on your outdoor excursions, you're probably gonna just need a wider lens. And 20 millimeter is wide enough to obviously hold at arm's length to vlog, and also not too wide where things look all distorted on the corners and the side. It might still look a little bit wide, but generally speaking, 20 millimeter would be the limit in terms of things starting to look a little bit wide angle wonky, if you know what I mean. And of course, that 40 mil gets you close enough to 50 mil to get some more squared off, standard looking, lack of a better word, cinematic type of field of view, if that makes any sense. It makes sense on YouTube, apparently. But yeah, the reason why I wouldn't recommend something like the Sony 16-35 f4 is because it's an f4. I don't care if f4 is fine with low light on your Sony camera that has 12,800 base ISO. f4 is just not enough subject isolation for me in the vast majority of cases. Maybe vlogging is fine, but then when you're filming other things and you want it to look a little bit more buttery, f4 just doesn't cut it for me. That's just me. If you like that kind of thing, have at it. But anyway, so this is at f2.8, and even for me, the only downside to zoom lens like this is the f2.8, and sometimes you might think that you want a prime. The good thing is Samyang actually has a 24 and a 35 millimeter f1.8 that is slightly cheaper than this lens, and you might want to consider a lens like that if you want to work with primes. So in my opinion, if you're going to be vlogging like this, you're probably going to want to get a 24 millimeter. Really quickly, I'll just compare 24 millimeter on the Tamron 20-40 with the Samyang 24 f1.8, and you let me know what you think about the differences. I'll also do a quick comparison with the 35mm f1.8 from Samyang and you let me know if it will cut it for you. So this is the Tamron 20-40 at 24 millimeters f2.8 standard stage. So this is the actual true 24 millimeters, and this is how that looks. This is the Samyang 24 millimeter f1.8 lens, and so this is what a 24 f1.8 would look like. And this lens could be had for about $400. And this is the 35 millimeters on the Tamron 20-40 millimeter lens, f2.8. And if you go to 40, you get that much more, which is not really that much at all, but just in case you wanted to see. And this is the Samyang 35mm f1.8, and this is what f1.8 would look like versus your 2.8 trash. So this is the Tamron at 20mm. I'm about a yard away from the camera right now. That's 3 feet or roughly a meter away from the camera. And this is a Tamron 20-40 at 20 millimeters. Now it is at 24 millimeters. And then I'll go ahead and zoom it to all the way to. This is at 35 millimeter. And then 40, which didn't make much of a difference. But this is the look that you should be expected to get at 40 millimeter. And just for a rough idea, this is the Samyang 24mm f1.8 at roughly the same distance as the Tamron at 20mm. So if you're going to shoot with 24mm f1.8, if you decide to choose the Samyang 24mm f1.8 as your go-to lens, this is what you'll get, you know, because 24mm is not always exactly the same on each and every lens. So sometimes a 24mm Samyang can be wider than a 24mm GM ever so slightly. So this is a good comparison with a 24mm Samyang versus the 20mm of the Tamron to see what you lose out, you know, in terms of width. So this is the Tamron 20-40mm f2.8 lens, and I'm sure you've seen other reviews already, but to me, it's well built. It's built good enough. It's plasticky, sure, here and there, but overall, it's like it has a well-built feel. And you know, you want for like a travel lens, and for a travel lens, especially if you're pairing it up with the Sony ZV-E1, you're going to want a lightweight setup. And I think it'll be silly for you to get something heavy and bulky with your light-ass camera. It just doesn't make any sense. So you bought the ZV-E1 for lightness, so you want to try to get small, lightweight lenses as well. And for a zoom lens with a good range, this is highly recommended. Yes, there's not too much other features on this lens. There's no buttons, things of that nature, like on a GM lens, but you are paying only $600 to $700. And the zoom, everything feels fine to me. There's going to be little nitty-gritty things that, again, you'll see in other reviews, and I'm telling you right now, it doesn't matter. The autofocus on this lens works fantastic. It works great, like pretty much every lens on the E-mount system, regardless of brand. Sure, Sony will be faster, especially if you sit there and test it in various situations. It will probably be slightly more reliable and slightly faster. But in a real world situation, I don't think you're gonna have to worry about these minor autofocusing ththings. Every Sony camera, regardless of what autofocus is using, regardless of AI, whatever, after the release of, I guess, the Sony a7 III, is going to have fantastic autofocus with any E-mount lens. So you don't have to worry about the performance of this lens. And in terms of sharpness for video, again, most people don't want super sharp ass images on their camera. You don't go get a full frame lens, you don't go get a full frame camera with 13 stops of dynamic range or whatever it is that sensor has, and want sharp ass, digitized image, you're gonna want a nice highlight fall off. You're gonna want a nice look to your video. And this whole video, I've been using these Freewell mist filter inserts for the versatile system this entire time for both the Samyang images and the Tamron images. So yeah, I'm not going to film without a mist filter, except I just realized this whole take right here has no mist filter on this Samyang lens, so I'm gonna just go ahead and put it on real quick. Alright, this mist actually has a stop or so of ND on it, so that's why I got darker. But now I have the mist on, so you see what the difference is. It gives a nicer, less harsh effect on the highlights, in my opinion, for shots like this, which is what I prefer. And you should too, especially if you're going out of your way to buy a $2,000 plus Sony full frame camera for your vlogging. So yeah, this is the lens I recommend you get for your Sony ZV-E1. If you just want one lens that could zoom in and out, you can vlog, you can shoot more cinematic type stuff. I actually used this lens, and only this lens, with my Sony FX3 when I went to go visit my parents for a short vacation, and it worked great. And some of the footage I got from it, I was very happy with the footage I got out of it. I was very happy with the autofocus performance. I was just pleased with the lens overall, well worth the money. And yeah, again, I appreciate you watching this video. Please like and subscribe. Till next time, lighten up. Hey man, you got the new Sony ZV-E1 camera to review? No, I didn't get one for review, but it's a nice camera. I think I'm gonna buy one. Oh my god, that because your YouTube channel is trash. What do you mean by that? If you want to be the best, if you want to be professional YouTuber, you need to buy the ZV-E1. Make review video, what lens to buy video, how to color grade video, and then you need to sell ZV-E1 lot and call it the Add Lot Pack. Not gonna lie, I'm not trying to make content like everyone else. And LUTs, they take a long time to develop properly. Let me show you. Rack 709 Add Lot, Dirty Add Lot, Canon Color Shine Add Lot, All Night Add Lot, Transition Add Lot. Bro, are you serious right now? With discount only $29.99.